Hello everyone and welcome to CareersTalk. I am Suren Sharma, an agile consultant based in Netherlands, and today we are going to discuss situational senior scrum master interview questions asked at Barclays. And to help us with the answer, we have invited Victor. Now, Victor is a PSM3 certified agile coach working at a leading bank in London, UK. And this is the second session we are doing with Victor. Our first session covers Scrum Master interview questions and answer for HSBC. And the link to that video is into the description. You can watch it later on. So, friends, before we begin, if you are new here, please subscribe to our channel. We have tons of valuable content for all of you. And if you find this session informative, please smash that like button. So, without further delay, let's get started. And welcome, Victor. Thank you for giving your time today. Victor, over to you.
Hi, Sunant. Glad to be here again.
Great, great. So, if you allow, shall we start with our questions? Okay. So, the very first question is let's assume that you are midway through a project and you are informed of the budget cuts that require reducing your team size or the project scope. So how would you manage the communication with the stakeholders? How you're going to prioritize your task and how you are going to adjust your project plan to accommodate these new budget constraints without impacting your project success. So yeah, it's a tricky one. And over to you, Victor.
Yeah, so I agree with you that this is a tricky one. And I think through our conversation today, there will be lots of questions, lots of situations when you're really on the boundary between being the Scrum Master and being more of a leader or even a project manager of the conversation. But still, it's good to have this in your, in your toolbox and be prepared to what's going on. So whether you're dealing with this problem on your own or you're going to deal and help someone else to deal with the problem, it's obviously, again, let's come back to our basic, let's come back to our pillars, and it's all about being coming back to fundamentals. So as you remember, Scrum is built on transparency, inspection, adaptation. And I would say that we should start really with transparency here. So no matter what kind of cuts we are talking here, is it a cut that is coming from the project side? Is it a cut coming from stakeholder side? It's obviously you always have to be first and you always have to lead on the communication. If you're not going to be super clear and super specific of what's happening, what's going on, and how are you going to manage the situation, people will just start to come up with some sort of rumors, which is absolutely natural. We're all as human beings, we try to get as much as possible information. We're really interested to know more. So if you don't provide information, they'll just come up with it. So it is a common ground. Let's talk transparently and make sure that everyone is on the same level, everyone understands what's going on. Second one is, again, as a Scrum Master or project manager, you're mostly interested in the success of your project. So I would start in looking what is the current picture. So where are we in the project scale? Where are we in the project path? What is the percentage of delivery? How much money actually left, etc., etc. So it's good to understand where are we in order to understand what we have to do further. So it might be that we can reprioritize some features. We might be able to cut some items for MVP, and maybe potentially that MVP will bring us more money. So there are really lots of scenarios you can do and think about it. Obviously, some of them might be tricky, some of them might be really, really hard, and some of them might be even impossible. But it's really important that before jumping into any decisions, just to sit back and take a look on the whole picture. Maybe there is you've done majority of the features and you can just go and release without those that are not implemented. Obviously, this is a super positive scenarios, but I think you've got where I'm talking about. And later, if you come up with kind of a potential steps, make sure that you actually communicate this with whoever is making decisions, because usually these money cuts are not coming from the team. These money cuts are probably even not coming from your manager, but it's coming somewhere from the above. So when they've done this cut, they probably calculated and they probably kind of understand what they're going to sacrifice. So it's really good to be aligned with what they expected and what are you proposing. Yes, of course, we are looking for an autonomous team, etc., etc. But sometimes it's just business. Might be your project is cut and no one really interested in releasing it, which is real life, and we just want you to be prepared for the real life. So again, the next step is just to make sure that you understand and you communicate of what are your potential options and how can you go with these options. So then is really about how you deal with the plant. So most likely you will cut some scope, you'll propose some iterations, and you'll go with it, maybe releasing one iteration at a time, trying to get as much benefit and as much output from those iterations, or some other scenario. So yeah, it's all about managing what has left efficiently. I would say that that's pretty much it. So just to summarize, make sure you communicate, because if you don't communicate, people will come up with their rumors. Sit back and try to understand what is left and what are the potential steps for how to move forward. And when you identified some steps, just make sure you are actually getting buy-in from everyone else on these steps. Because if you have your steps, but people above don't really agree with those, you can end up in kind of a tricky situation.
Great.
I think that's pretty much from my side.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Victor, for that. Just a very small brief from my side that, yeah, I mean, you have covered everything, definitely. So maybe we can also implement some efficiency measures. So, for example, if we can use some lean practices to eliminate any kind of process waste, or let's say if we can able to increase our team productivity, or if we are able to streamline a couple of workflows, maybe or maybe like we can explore some automation, or some different tools that can support our team in maintaining a little bit more efficiency, and maybe we can reduce couple of resources as well in this. I mean, again, just at a high level, just want
I
to
agree
cover.
with you. And it's a typical behavior of companies that they start to eliminate waste only when they can't go further without waste. So it's really a good thing to try to eliminate it almost every day. But obviously, if you're getting under scrutiny, there might be something you are doing that is really unnecessary.
Correct. And other quickly, other point is which I just want to add over here is maybe kind of regular checks in with the stakeholders, like maybe a regular meetings or some sort of reporting to update the stakeholders on the progress about the budget utilization, or maybe any other risk or blockers which are just come out of it, though you have already covered it, but then maybe it has to be like ongoing process. So that's only I just want to add.
Yeah, I agree with you, and really, it's a good thing to remind. But again, my point here is this kind of items that I would expect you to have already, right? If you're
True.
getting to this point. But yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Sunant. If you're getting into a big trouble, you better get on your feet and find all those tips and tricks from all the podcasts and books you've seen, and just try to make sure that you're doing it effectively.
Okay, great, Victor. Let's move on to our second question. So let's say again a difficult question, of course, for you. So let's say if you have a disagreement with your delivery manager, let's say regarding the project timelines. So let's say your delivery manager pushing for some faster delivery, but you feel that if we are going to do that, it will compromise the quality of our work. So how you are going to resolve this conflict to meet both the timeline and the quality standards? Victor, over to you.
Yeah, an interesting one. So obviously, uh, it's probably, not your conflict, but probably the team's conflict, and you're just acting as a voice here. So this might be a tricky one, but good thing that team rely on you to solve this situation that they kind of trust, which is a good start. So again, coming back to the situation, let's try with some transparency. Let's really try to understand what are the concerns, what are these deadlines are coming from. Are these deadlines aligned with product owner? Are these deadlines aligned with the general product strategy? And if it's something that, sometimes people just being people, and the delivery manager might have woken up from the wrong side of the bed, and they just decided to screw you up. So it's never a bad idea just to have a quick chat and try to understand what are the concerns. So I would definitely start from there. If you are not able to come with conversation, then you need to come back to the data. So hopefully you've created all the metrics and reportings before, so you can lean back to the historical data. As we all remember, in an agile world, we really can can steer only based on what we already know. So hopefully you know all the data, and you can rely to situation when you've done this before, you rushed something before and it actually didn't work out. So this is kind of a conversation we would like to have with delivery manager, that to show them, yes, of course we can deliver. Yes, of course we can skip some testing. Yes, of course we can do X, Y, Z, but are we really able to make this happen? And also, I would say, don't forget that you're not only person there. There's definitely a team who is more knowledgeable than you, product owner, who is actually responsible for the value delivery. So it will be good to have a buy-in and have a like complete picture from all of you. So yeah, so once you have these pictures, you can start to explore some compromises. Hopefully everyone in the conversation and in the picture is quite mature, so you're not going into blunt curses and just screaming at each other. So you're having a good conversation and you just can find some compromise. Maybe this is exactly a point where you can introduce some tech debt just for the sake of delivering faster and getting this, these long-hanging fruits from the product and from the customers or from revenue. Maybe it's the right time. Yes, you don't like it from the product perspective, you don't like it from delivery perspective, but maybe this is exactly one moment when you need to use an agile in a little bit tweaked way, that it's not a standard practice, but by the fact that you've been able to adapt, you are able to get better benefit. Obviously, if you're doing any adjustments to any processes or any products or any tech debts or whatever you've tweaked to make this happen, make sure you documented it, because especially with some code quality, it might get very, very dirty when in sometimes people come back to this piece of code and they just realize, have no idea what's going on, and they even don't really remember where this came from and how to operate this piece of code. So document whatever you've seen, document whatever you've adjusted, and make sure that all these little nasty landmines you've put on the path are really understandable by everyone in the team. So this is kind of a positive scenario, right? When you found some solution, found some agreement, but you really might end up in a situation where you just clash. First of all, you can clash just because of different personalities. You can clash that someone just really gone mad, or someone is just really off the track. So hopefully by the time you are in this situation, you have some support from some senior stakeholders and you can lean on them for this. If not, good time to start building relationships. But let's be honest, in 95% of situations, no one is getting into blunt conflict without really yeah, without a reason. So you're not going to end up in a fight, like a proper physical, fist stuff. But if it appears, yeah, feel free to rely on someone who can protect you. Obviously, a good one is to get back to your team charter or team agreement or team contract, whatever you've named it in your organization, and there are probably something around how you solve conflict, how you solve problems, etc., etc. Yeah, so to sum up, if situation is positive, you're able to find some compromise, then just to make sure you understand this compromise, understand all the consequences of this compromise and how to fix it in future. If it's going a little bit not in the way you would expect, then yeah, try to, first of all, avoid the conflict in the way that make this conflict really positive and make this conflict something that can help you and the team and delivery manager for the future. But if it's really going super, super wrong, it's a good point, and I think it's a good scenario just to lean on someone who can help. Because again, this is all about transparency, and I bet that your manager or his manager or their manager will not be happy if they, after a couple of months, will uncover that they've released a failed artifact because you two just didn't have a proper conversation. So you better start having this chat before.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Thank you, Victor. So for me, the key takeaway is the data-driven approach, as you mentioned. So as a Scrum Master, I would gather the data and the matrices from the project to show how reducing time might impact the quality aspect. So this could include maybe the defect rates or the rework cost, or let's say similar project where speed affect the quality. So maybe I'll come up with that data, and with this concrete data I would create a risk assessment showing the potential consequences of rushing delivery. That may be like increase post launch defects, or let's say customer dissatisfaction, or let's say maybe we are not going to maintain the quality. So with this data I'll arrange a discussion with my delivery manager. Here we could both we voice our perspective openly, and I would start acknowledging the importance of timeline, and then present the potential risk of escalated this delivery on quality, supporting with the data collected. So I think by focusing on the shared objective, which is of course the customer satisfaction, the long term value, and the success of delivery, I can maybe able to redirect the conversation from time to quality, maybe like how we can meet timeline without compromising the quality. So maybe yeah, it's a kind of maybe we need to find some compromise or then alternatives. Maybe we can propose some approach to maintain high priority features, while exploring that it okay, certain low priority item could be deferred to the future phase or something like that. Like, so yeah, I mean, we maybe propose some revised plan with the different milestones. So yeah, these maybe we'll come up with the MVP only. Like we can suggest a kind of pilot or MVP where we can just deliver an MVP or a pilot version to meet the deadline, with a plan to follow up with the refinement based on the feedback and things like that. So yeah, these are the key takeaways for me from your answer. Yeah, thank you, Victor. And let's move on to the next question. Okay, so the next question is, let's assume that two of your stakeholders have different priorities for the next lead. Again, like one is focusing towards the quality and the innovation, and other one is more tending towards, again, the speed. So how you balance these priorities and keep the project aligned with the business goal? This question looks similar to the previous one, but let's see if you have a different perspective.
Yeah, I agree that it looks similar, and I would say that resolution will be really similar. But I think here is taking into account it's stakeholders who are in conflict. You have all the right to act as a facilitator. So I would say in this real situation, it's really important to kind of stay above the conflict and just to, again, you're there to make the project succeed, not to no one pays you for arguing with people. So it's really about getting into a positive conflict and getting into a positive conversation. So feel free to open your toolbox, pull all, playing cards and games and throwing balls and Miro dashboards and whatever you have in your arsenal, just to make sure that you can get these people to talk, that you can help these people to visualize and understand all the points and concerns from all the sides, and really be on the same page on what's going on. This is a really good scenario to help you, first of all, to understand deeper what's going on, but also to help people to really uncover what are their true concerns, how they are, why they are not confident about this solution or that solution, why they can't get into common situations. So this is almost like a ideal coaching situation, ideal team coaching scenario. So take everything you know about coaching. If you think that the conflict is just super hot at the moment and people just can't speak to each other, then it worth having a pause, getting them out of the room, having a private conversation with each other, trying to coach them in a little bit, in a manner that you get them back into the state of clear thinking, into the state of collaboration. And only if you and only when you understand that they are actually kind of ready to speak, you can get back to the situation. Because the last thing you want, again, being angry and throwing stuff at each other, most likely you will not end up in this situation. But you always have to be conscious about what's going on. So this is about maybe soft skills side of this issue. If we speak about hard skills, again, as in the previous one, hopefully you had all the metrics you've created before and you can act as a helper for people. So you basically bring all the data, you bring all the fancy dashboards you've built, and you show them what are the consequences of of the decisions you have, and hopefully you can provide some valid input. This is really valuable because you are staying close to the team, you're staying close to the code, you're staying close to the solutions and real problems, so you can provide that valuable input they might have been lacking. And then you can help stakeholders to remind some tools they forgot. Maybe they haven't done some basics like cost benefits of each project. Maybe they didn't calculate projects or solutions. This is right time just to, ask, have they thought about it? So coaching is a really good friend in this case. Obviously, we can go and propose some solutions, but hopefully you can stay quite distance from the actual solution, more of the facilitators, because if they're stakeholders, if they're owning the product or the project or MVP
Yeah.
or whatever they're implementing, they probably have solution they want. So you should not be really proposing here a solution. But again, if you see that the conversation is stuck, it's good to have a topic starters. And it's never a bad idea to propose something they haven't talked about. If you've noticed they didn't talk about, let's say, I don't know, if you have a conflicting project or conflicting features, why don't try both just in a smaller and trimmed way and just, spend one day here, spend one day there, try to build something super similar and then compare what's going on. So you're there really to facilitate and bring this picture all together. I think this is the strength that you are as a Scrum Master knows, because you're both from the team side and you're both from the stakeholder side, and you can provide them really, really valuable input. And again, coming back to the position, whatever solution you're ending up with, make sure you understand the rationale behind the decision, and you provide some documentation why you've done this decision. Because again, this can be a little bit dirty, so it really it pays out to make sure that you understand why the decision was made. So in case in the future someone needs to make some changes, they can understand why they've been done, and you can just save time to someone. So yeah, I agree with Sunan. This is really similar to the previous one, but I think as this is not kind of your conflict, but it is a really good opportunity to pick up all that you know about coaching and facilitation and kind of mediation and step into the position of really helping them to uncover their best.
True. Yeah, thank you, Victor, for that wonderful, great elaborated explanation. Okay, let's move on. Uh, so let's assume that you are conducting a performance appraisal, but the project which you have managed has several setbacks due to some external factor which is not in your control, your team control. And now your entire team output was affected due to all this. So how would you fairly evaluate the individual performance, considering the challenges the team have faced in the last quarter, or let's say last release? It's a tricky situation because I mean, as per my understanding, Scrum Masters are not involved in the performance appraisal, but maybe they want to give some input to the managers or things like that. Maybe, yeah, Victor.
Yeah, I've recently um, I've written an article about the kind of transformation of the Scrum Master role, and I truly believe that as we go forward, Scrum Master will probably disappear as a refined person who just do the Scrum and facilitation and metrics and stuff. So it will be probably kind of a part of the role of a broader perspective, like an engineering manager or something like that. So yes, I agree. Probably according to Scrum Guide, there is nothing about performance management, but you'll be involved in one way or another. If you're staying close to the team, you have lots of valuable feedback. So this is a good thing for you to provide some input in what's going on here. So again, let's go back to the communication. We're all people. Obviously, you can't feed people with some feedback and good words, but it is just good to be personal, and it's good to admit that stuff happens. So try to explain to your best knowledge what the external challenges, what are the potential solutions, and what are the potential changes that it can bring. Again, coming back to the first question, if this is kind of going around and people kind of understand that something is going on, but no one communicates this to them, this will get even worse. So instead of saying that, we can have this conversation in future, say that I don't really know when we are going to have this conversation. This is all I know. These are all the facts. Let's see what we can do together, or tell me what are your concerns, and we'll try to fix them together. So start with communication again. Then let's try to look into what was the process you've built before, and see what are the adjustments you can make based on the current situation. Yeah, it's always a hard one to say to people that, we are not able to provide a bonus, or you're not able to provide a promotion this year, etc., etc. But again, this is a business environment. People are not hostages. So at the very end, if they're totally unhappy, they will just try to find something else. Hopefully, you'll maintain a good conversation, so you'll be involved in this decision. You will know that this decision is coming. But again, if you're being transparent, you can build trust, and hopefully you can understand what's really on their mind, and maybe there is an opportunity to resolve this as well. As a potential one is, I would say, try to look into some options that they might be satisfied with. Yes, you are not able to provide a bonus, but maybe this person always wanted to try something else. They can switch inside the organization. They can try to do something else in their, I don't know, allocate 10% of their time doing some coding, or 10% of their time doing not coding. So there are really many ways, and the motivation is super important. I'm sure most of you have seen all these studies that after a certain amount of time, it doesn't really matter, certain amount of money, it doesn't really matter how much people are getting. Yes, obviously it matters to some of them, but the majority of people will be really more interested in getting something different. For example, better tasks, or more challenging tasks, or just spending more time with their family. So there is always a balance that you can try to find on the team level. But yeah, it's obviously a super hard one. So if you are, whatever your agreement you came up with, whether this is a positive or negative, just try to stay really updated on this one. Follow up more frequently. If your typical performance cycle is, let's say, 6 months or 1 year, then try to follow up every month, and just to remind that, yes, this is a current situation. I think that we are going to improve in X, Y, Z, and we believe we can come back to this point. So this conversation will help you stay on the same page with people, and when things hopefully will improve, you'll be ready to jump in and finally provide much deserved and much needed appraisals, or whatever form of whatever form you agreed to.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you, Victor, on that. Okay, let's move on. So the next question is on the scope creep. So let's say your one of the key client is insist on adding new features during a critical phase of a project, but the challenge is your team is already overworked. They are like already hitting their max capacity. So how you are going to handle this request and explain the risk of scope creep to the client?
So first of all, I think this is probably a really important thing to just to be involved in what's going on. So again, I don't believe this is a fully Scrum Master's responsibility, but you'll probably be involved at some point. So that's a good one to know. So if you're going to have this conversation, you need to understand what are the terms with that client. Maybe there is nothing like this in the contract, and you can just say, to your manager, or to someone senior in the product, just to say them to the stakeholders, you haven't paid for this, we are not doing this, sorry, go on. But this is kind of an extreme situation. You probably don't want to ruin any relationships with them anyway. So let's try to stay positive and stay in a good kind of conversational phase with them. So if it's a case that the concern is valid and stakeholder really proposes something that has to be implemented, that let's start to have this conversation. So first of all, sometimes clients just want to implement something they don't really need, or they want to implement something they don't really know how to build. So this initial assessment can help you to understand if it's really possible, if it's really needed. Maybe this is some nonsense that doesn't make sense, and client just, is not involved technically, so they can't understand why it is not possible. So it's good to have this conversation, and just to first realize whether it's possible and whether this will provide any value. at least from your perspective. If it's not, then this is your best skills to explain to the customer why it is not possible. Technically, all technical problems are solvable, and there is no mission impossible, but some stuff may be just super expensive, or you don't have necessary skills, so it will take very, very long time to implement. But most likely, again, your main thing here will be, it's not a rocket science. The triangle of money, time, and value is still here. So if you add any more value, something should go down. It's either you need to add more money, or you need to increase time altogether. But scope creep will definitely force something out of the scope. So this is again a conversation that you have to have with the client, and they have to be aware of all the potential drawbacks. They might need to pay more. They might need to understand that some quality might be affected, or they really need to take into account that some customers might not be able to use your product. So all of them should be really explained to them. And probably again, document stuff that you've done. If you've done some nasty changes that you don't believe are really good for the long term of the project, just make sure they're visible and they're documented, just in case something happens in future and someone needs to adjust. They're not, hitting these underwater stones, because it will be really, really painful, especially if it's not only you who changes, but also stakeholders, counterpart changes, and they have no idea what were the decisions made. Of course, as you remember in Agile Manifesto, oh my goodness, I forgot the line from Agile Manifesto. Working software over comprehensive documentation, I believe, something like this. So it's not that we completely forget about documentation. We still care about it, and we should have enough of this documentation in the contract, just in case. If it's a business decision, if it's an expensive decision, you need to make sure that you are on the same page with stakeholder, and just to make sure that whatever they thought about and whatever you agreed to, it's actually what they're paying for. Because if at the end they would like to revert everything and come back to the original terms, and you've spent time building something they've agreed only verbally, well, this is probably a tricky area you don't want to enter. So make sure you really document whatever you've done. So yeah, I think first just assess what are the changes and how are they impact the project. Then try to explain to the stakeholder what will be real impact if we take into account the scope. It can be time, money, or the value that customers are getting. And third of all, and don't get me wrong, it's not about covering yourself. It's really about the minimum level of documentation, I don't know, confidence, I would say, that in case something goes wrong, you know how to protect yourself. So don't forget about it. It's in Agile Manifesto, and it's really important, especially if we're talking about big sums of money or important changes to the project. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yep. Thank you, Victor, for that. Wonderful. Okay, let's move on. We have a lot of questions and our time is running out like anything.
Yeah, it
Okay.
is.
Okay, so the next question is, let's say you need to onboard a new developer, but then your project is into the final stages and you have very tight deadlines and there is very limited scope for knowledge transfer, So how would you help the new team member to integrate quickly without affecting the timelines? So yeah, Victor.
So first of all, yeah, I've been through this situation super recently, and I really sorry if you haven't done any pre-work and you're just onboarding someone without work in the middle of the project. It will be a tough ride, but yeah. So obviously think about this onboarding before they start, and they should know the drill from the first day. Yes, some people are absolutely amazing. They pick up from the first side, they join, they install on the environment, they get the laptop, they even can log in the email in one day, which in some organization is very, very hard hard task to do. But just make sure that whenever they join, they really have a step, almost like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. This can be done in parallel. You can prepare before they join, and moreover, most likely you can reuse it from the previous one. Maybe in the team nearby, they've done something similar. You can just borrow it and use it. So without this plan, no matter how senior the engineer is, or not engineer, just a team member, without this plan, it will be really a tough ride. So you can hire the best person, you can hire the smartest person on the earth, but they can just be stuck with some environment configuration on machine they've never worked before, because this is your security policy. So yeah, checklist is your friend. I would say assigning a mentor is a good one. So it's really a good practice to find one person who will be a go-to person for this specific colleague, so that when they stuck with the problem, they know that there is a help sitting nearby. They can call them on an instant call, and all the problems will be solved, because the most time it's spent trying to understand where to go and who to speak to. And maybe the colleague who spent enough time here can either help themselves or just point in the right direction. Again, all the communication should be established, and obviously there shouldn't be situation when someone is stuck and they just sit shut without telling anyone. So make sure that whatever values and open communication techniques you have established in your teams, you're all aligned, and this new member is aware of this. And of course, all onboarding should be judged. So even if it's the tightest deadline, don't forget to set a clear expectations, because it's sometimes all right to be different. It's sometimes all right not to align with the person, and you just sometimes have to let someone go because they're not happy, you're not happy, it's just not working out. But the expectations should be good. If something is going wrong, they should know about this before they are being let go, because this is just absolutely terrible from you as a manager, and this is completely your fault. If you had to let someone go in one day and they were not aware of this, this is your mismanagement. So yeah, I would say you have to have a plan, like bullet points, what they have to do step by step. You would better assign someone who can help them and be a go-to person. And last but not least, clear expectations, just to help them to understand what are their expected outputs in 1, 2, 3 months, whatever period you set.
Okay. Yep. Thank you, Victor, for that. Okay, let's move on. This one is again looking little tricky. So let's say you have a project, and that particular project which you are managing, working with, is failed to meet its objective, and the client has lost all the confidence in you, in your team, in your organization. So how you are going to rebuild that trust with the client, and you have to ensure that the future projects are managed more effectively. So it's basically, yeah, I mean, it's a failure, but then the thing is, like, what we can learn from that failures, I guess, Victor.
Lots of projects about conflicts. I wonder what they're doing in Barclays. It's all about conflicts and failures. But anyway, yeah. So again, you know the drill, the communication. What if it happens? You really need to make sure that you are up to date with what's going on, and your stakeholders know what's going on. So it's a major incident, it's a major project fail, etc., etc. You need to make sure that everyone is aware what are you doing to remediate the problems. So regular checkpoints, frequent, I don't know, dashboard that is super automatically updated, and stakeholders can just see what is the progress, etc., etc. It will help you to make. You lost the trust already. So it's not about, self-autonomous team, self-managing team. You will have to go through the period when it's just not working on and you are being watched. So make sure that you make it easy for you, make sure you make it easy for them, and you can start to build this trust and on really small steps. Make sure that whatever changes and failures are documented. Root cause analysis will help as well, because most likely this fail happened, and yeah, it will probably happen again in the future. And if you have the same problem with the same fail in the future, you will never get the trust back. So make sure that after you've recovered, you understood what's going on and how to help in future. And of course, yeah, use all the tools. Don't forget that you are not the only one, and you're probably not the first person to have this kind of problem. Maybe there is someone in the organization who worked with the stakeholder before, and they know what the stakeholders expect and how to get better to this kind of communication and collaboration phase. Because again, it's not about being comfortable, or it's not about being in a good connection with stakeholder. It's all about the value still. Yes, good connection is a nice to have, but it's all about the value. So it's really good to understand what they are expecting from you. So either you can get this expectation from someone in the team, or you can have an honest conversation with them, like as simple as, what can I do to build my to get your trust back, or what can I do for you to start trusting me back. Yeah, it's really a simple question. Yeah, it might be an uncomfortable answer, but pretty much Scrum Master job is about being uncomfortable, either for yourself or asking questions. Yeah, I think that should do the trick.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for that, Victor. Okay, let's move on. So let's think about a situation that one or two of your team members are not performing well. They're underperforming compared to rest of your team, and then now affecting the project. So what you are going to do in this kind of situation? Is it like you're going to remove them from the team, or what step would you like to take?
Yeah, again, kind of a question I wouldn't expect Scrum Master to solve, but probably as we are evolving, you will get into this habit. So we've covered this in one of the previous questions. So if someone is being let go, I hope they knew that this is coming before, because if they didn't, then it's definitely your fault. You mismanaged your finances, your goals, you just didn't provide enough feedback, etc., etc. But it doesn't matter. It's your fault. So make sure that whatever your expectation, whatever your metrics, whatever your performances, it is really well understood, and people have an opportunity to fix their behavior, to fix their metrics, fix their performance, etc., etc. Because otherwise, it's just a waste of both times. So you really have to be there. Once expectations are set, you're really able to almost navigate in a really, shallow waters with this person. So I really like the framework. I think it's almost like the first attempt, you see some bad behaviors. You say you try to teach person. Second time, you see the same behavior. It's not about teaching. It's about pointing out that we've talked about this before. Please don't do this again. But if the third time, you have all the right to be super angry and all the right to actually start to take some consequences. So I would say, again, we are in Agile world. You make a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. So it's all right to make a mistake once. It's probably okay to make a mistake twice. But if you do mistake 3 times, then yeah, there should be some consequences. So this is about almost setting this behavior with people, so they understand that they are underperforming before you telling them they are underperforming. It shouldn't be that, like, one feedback session, let's say January, oh, you're doing well, April, you're doing well, May, July, you're doing well, and then in October, sorry, we are firing you because you're underperforming. This should not happen at any time. And if it's happening, it's your fault, definitely. So of course, if you provided the feedback and people are unfortunately not providing any adjustments, make sure you're being just a human being. Make sure you understand what's going on there. We all have our problems. Maybe there is some background, maybe some issues in the family, or some other stuff that is just around, and they are not able to focus 100% and contribute their 100% to the work. Yeah, but still, this is not an excuse, and you should be able to have this constant communication with them. And if they have troubles, you should find a compromise inside the team how you can make this work. Obviously, if nothing helps and you really need to remove someone, again, make sure that you're not ending up in a conflict. If you're providing feedback, it should be feedback about their actions, not them as a personality. It should be an opportunity for you to grow and understand how you haven't helped them. Maybe your onboarding is really terrible, or maybe you didn't have any support on the team, or maybe you're just not adjusted for people with this type of personality or this type of thinking. So yeah, make sure that whatever you've done, you understand what's going on there. And obviously, letting people go is hard and it's tough. And I'm sure whoever had an opportunity to have this performance conversation first time in their life, whichever side they've been in this conversation, it is really a tough one. But these situations will appear. Removing someone from the team is not always negative thing. Sometimes it's super positive. Maybe the person is just not feeling there 100%. Yeah, you are not getting feedback as well, but you help them growing. So always think that maybe it's not that terrible situation. But of course, I think the most important bit here is to make sure that as a manager or as a scrum master or whoever is involved in this performance conversation, you've done everything possible to help this person. But if they don't take the feedback into account and they don't really want to change themselves, then there is nothing you can really do. So make sure you do this with dignity, you conduct an offboarding interview, and you make sure that if you can help find them a better place, or you can help them adjust to new reality, try to do that. But again, if you provided an opportunity and they didn't take it, then there is not much you can do. And this is just a life.
Thank you, Victor. Yeah. Sometimes what I've observed that rather than changing the person is better, we can change the environment or the around that person.
Absolutely.
So in one of our project, it happened that one of the developer, for some reason, his skill set is not matching our requirements, and then he's not performing the way our team is expecting him to perform. So we done a kind of transition for him from developer to an automation tester. So we help him with lot of trainings and hands-on simulation, different kind of projects. And then now he's a wonderful automated automation tester. He's doing pretty great in that particular field. And yeah, I mean, now sometimes when we have that kind of conversation with him, he say that, yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for you, because of you
Absolutely.
guys, like I have changed this and now I'm doing great in this particular field. Maybe I was stuck in that as a developer. So sometimes even we don't know that, okay, what we are capable of. Sometimes it happens like people are stuck with wrong job, different kind of roles which they are not used to, or they're not good at, and then maybe they might be useful in other different roles. So yeah.
Absolutely. If letting someone go should be your last resort. You have to try to save this person. First of all, it's expensive to hire. It's a huge stress for the team. It's a huge stress for the person. So you should try to save them. But sometimes it's just not possible. But even myself, I was at some point, I just realized that I absolutely hated what I'm doing. And yeah, but I had an opportunity inside the team to switch to another field, and yeah, that was pretty good.
Great, great. Yeah. Thank you, Victor. I think we are good for today. It's almost an hour since we started this session. So, yeah, thank you, Victor. And thank you, all of you. Thank you, friends, for joining us today for the session. And we hope that you found it helpful, informative. And if you enjoyed this session, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. And we hope to see you in our next session. Until then, take care. This is Sunil Sharma signing off. Bye bye, everyone. And thank you, Victor.
Thank you, Sunant. Bye bye.
Thank you.